When humans say, "Fine, I'll do it myself," the galaxy learns true trouble has just begun. Part 1. Ambassador Linda Vance stood before the Galactic Coalition assembly with her back straight and her eyes calm. 300 alien delegates watched her from their seats. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some had bodies made of living crystal. All of them looked at her with the same expression. It was the look adults give to children who speak out of turn. Linda had seen that look many times in the 3 months since humanity joined the coalition. She was getting tired of it. "I present evidence of Kithrani crimes against neutral colonies," Linda said. Her voice carried across the massive chamber. "They have raided 17 settlements in the past 6 months. They have taken hostages from 12 different species. Among those hostages are 4 human scientists, including Dr. Nora Ellis." She pressed a button on her device. Holographic images appeared in the air above her. They showed burned buildings, dead bodies, families torn apart. The evidence was clear and impossible to deny. High Arbiter Zelthix raised one of his 4 arms. He was a tall creature with gray skin and black eyes that showed no emotion. He led the coalition, and his word carried great weight. "Ambassador Vance," Zelthix said, "the Kithrani Empire is a sovereign power. We cannot interfere in their internal matters based on the claims of a species that joined our coalition only recently." Linda felt her jaw tighten. "These are not claims. These are facts. I have sensor data. I have survivor testimony. I have the names and locations of the hostages." "The Kithrani deny these accusations," Zelthix replied. "Without their cooperation, any investigation would be seen as an act of aggression." A ripple of agreement passed through the assembly. Linda watched species after species nod their heads or make gestures of approval. They were afraid of the Kithrani. The Kithrani had the largest military in this sector of the galaxy. No one wanted to challenge them. The Kithrani representative stood from his seat. His name was Commander Vorax, and he wore the black uniform of their military elite. His reptilian face twisted into something like a smile. "The human ambassador speaks with passion," Vorax said. "It is almost charming. Our species has been traveling between stars for less than 2 centuries. They do not understand how things work in the galaxy. Perhaps in another 1,000 years, they will learn wisdom." Laughter filled the chamber. Hundreds of alien voices joined together in amusement at the young species that dared to challenge ancient powers. Linda waited for the laughter to die. When she spoke again, her voice was quiet, but every word was clear. "The coalition has refused to act," she said. "I understand. You have your politics. You have your fears. But I want every delegate in this chamber to remember this moment. Remember that we asked for help. Remember that we gave you the chance to do the right thing." Zelthix leaned forward. "And if we refuse, what will humanity do? You have a small fleet, a single world. You are brave, Ambassador, but bravery is not enough against the Kithrani." Linda looked at him for a long moment. "If the coalition will not rescue the hostages, then humanity will do it ourselves." More laughter erupted across the chamber. Vorax slapped his hand against his leg in amusement. "The humans will attack the Kithrani Empire," he said between laughs. "With what? Their primitive ships? Their soft bodies? We have conquered species far more powerful than yours. You would not survive a single day." Linda did not smile. She did not react at all. She simply gathered her documents and prepared to leave. From the back of the chamber, an old voice spoke. It belonged to Elder Scythine, a creature so ancient that no one remembered what species she originally came from. She rarely spoke at coalition meetings. When she did, others listened. "I would be careful, Commander Vorax," Scythine said. Her voice was like dry leaves in the wind. "I have studied the humans since they first appeared in our records. They are not like other young species. Varax turned to look at her. What makes them different? They are weak. They live short lives. They come from a planet that should have killed them long ago. Yes, Scythine said. And yet they survived. They built civilizations in deserts and frozen wastelands. They crossed oceans before they had proper technology. They split the atom and walked on their moon within the same century. They do not know when to stop. They do not understand the word impossible. She paused. I suggest you take the ambassador's warning seriously. Varax waved his hand dismissively. Old stories and superstition. The humans will do nothing. They cannot. Linda reached the door of the chamber. She stopped and looked back one final time. We are done asking, she said. Remember that? Then she walked out. In her private quarters, Linda received a transmission on a secure channel. The image showed a dark room with concrete walls. A woman sat in the center, bound to a chair. Her face was bruised and bloody. One of her eyes was swollen shut. Dr. Nora Ellis looked into the camera with her one good eye. A Kithrani interrogator stood behind her, asking questions about human technology and military capabilities. When Nora refused to answer, he struck her again. The transmission ended. Linda stood alone in the silence. She had spent her entire career believing in diplomacy. She had always thought that reasonable beings could find peaceful solutions to their problems. Today, she learned that some beings were not reasonable. Some beings only understood one language. She opened a channel to Earth Command. General Marcus Webb appeared on the screen. He was an older man with gray hair and hard eyes. He had been a soldier for 40 years. They refused, Linda said. The coalition will not help us. General Webb nodded slowly. I expected as much. What are your orders, Ambassador? Linda thought about Nora Ellis. She thought about the other hostages. She thought about all the delegates who laughed at her warning. Proceed with Operation Homecoming, she said. Bring our people home. All of them. General Webb allowed himself a small smile. With pleasure, Ambassador. The galaxy is about to learn what happens when humans stop asking nicely. The transmission ended. Somewhere in the depths of space, human ships began to move. When humans say, fine, I'll do it myself, the galaxy learns true trouble has just begun. Part 2. Commander Daniel Price stood in the war room of Earth Command and studied the holographic map floating before him. Red markers showed Kithrani military positions. Blue markers showed the location of the hostages. The distance between them was vast and filled with danger. The Kithrani have 40 warships guarding their border, said Lieutenant Maya Grant. She stood beside him, her dark eyes moving across the tactical data. Their orbital defense station has enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Their ground forces number in the hundreds of thousands. Daniel nodded slowly. And we have 12 ships, 200 ground soldiers, and exactly 0 margin for error. Some would call that impossible odds, Maya said. Some would be right. Daniel turned to face her. But impossible has never stopped us before. 3 days later, the USS Defiant led a small fleet toward Kithrani space. Captain Henry Cole sat in the command chair and watched the stars stretch into lines as they entered hyperspace. His ship was officially classified as a patrol vessel. The coalition believed it carried light weapons and basic shields. They were wrong. Since joining the galactic community, humanity had studied every species they encountered. They learned from Velthari engine designs. They borrowed Sindari shield technology. They improved upon Kithrani weapon systems. The USS Defiant was the result of 3 years of secret development. It looked like a patrol ship. It fought like a BATLECRUISER. In the cargo bay below, Sergeant Kevin Brooks trained his team for the ground assault. 20 soldiers ran through combat drills again and again. They practiced breaching techniques. They memorized the layout of Kethrani detention facilities. They prepared for conditions that would kill soldiers from other species. The air on the Kethrani homeworld is thin, Kevin told his team. Gravity is 1.3 times Earth normal. Temperature in the capital city averages 42 degrees. Other species would need environmental suits just to breathe. One of his soldiers raised her hand. And us? Kevin smiled. We will sweat a little. That is all. Humans evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. High gravity, thin air, and hot weather are Tuesday for us. The team laughed. They knew what they were. They came from a planet with earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanoes, and predators. They survived ice ages and plagues. Their bodies were designed for endurance. Their minds were built for adaptation. They were the children of a death world. Back on the Coalition station, High Arbiter Zelfix received reports of human fleet movements. He reviewed the data with mild interest. 12 ships, he said to his advisors. The humans are actually going through with their threat. They will attack the Kethrani with 12 small ships. His chief military advisor made a sound of disbelief. They cannot be serious. The Kethrani will destroy them in minutes. This is suicide. Perhaps the humans want to be martyrs, another advisor suggested. They will die gloriously and hope the galaxy remembers them. Zelfix shook his head. It does not matter. Their destruction will teach them humility. The survivors will learn to respect galactic order. From the corner of the room, Elder Scythine spoke. She had been watching and listening in silence. You assume there will be survivors among the Kethrani, she said. Zelfix turned to look at her. You cannot be serious. 12 ships against 40. The mathematics are clear. Scythine rose from her seat. Her ancient body moved slowly, but her eyes were sharp. I have lived for 6,000 years, High Arbiter. I have watched empires rise and fall. I have seen species that ruled entire galaxies reduced to dust. And in all that time, I have learned one thing. What is that? Never judge a species by their numbers alone. Judge them by their will. She walked toward the door. The humans have something the Kethrani lack. They have a cause worth dying for. That makes them more dangerous than any fleet. She left the room. Zelfix watched her go with uncertainty growing in his chest. On the USS Defiant, Daniel Price called his commanders together for a final briefing. Maya Grant, Henry Cole, and Kevin Brooks gathered around the tactical display. The Kethrani expect us to fight like other species, Daniel said. They expect formation attacks, predictable maneuvers, rules of engagement that make sense to their computers. Maya pulled up a series of battle plans. We will not give them any of that. Human military history is filled with unconventional tactics. Hannibal crossing the Alps with elephants. Washington crossing the Delaware in winter. The Viet Cong using tunnels against superior firepower. We adapt. We improvise. We do things that make no logical sense until they work. Henry Cole studied the plans. Their targeting computers rely on pattern recognition. If we do not follow patterns, they cannot predict our movements. Exactly, Daniel said. We fight like humans. We use terrain. We use distraction. We hit them where they are not looking and disappear before they can respond. Even Brooks cracked his knuckles. And once we reach the surface, Daniel looked at him with steady eyes. You get our people out. All of them. Not just the humans. Every single hostage in that facility walks out alive. Kevin nodded. Understood, Commander. We leave no one behind. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Kethrani territory. 40 warships detected their arrival and moved to intercept. Commander Varax watched from his flagship with amusement. The humans have arrived, he announced to his crew. Let us teach them the price of arrogance. He opened a communication channel. Human vessels, you are ordered to surrender immediately. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Resist and you will be destroyed. Daniel Price's voice came through the speakers calm and clear. Commander Varax, we gave the Coalition a chance to solve this peacefully. They refused. We gave you a chance to release the hostages. You refused. Now we will do it ourselves. Varax laughed. You have 12 ships. I have 40. Your mathematics are poor. Daniel's response was quiet. We are not here to count ships, Commander. We are here to bring our people home. And nothing in this galaxy will stop us. The channel closed. The battle was about to begin. When humans say, fine, I'll do it myself, the galaxy learns true trouble has just begun. Part 3. The first. Kethrani missiles launched toward the human fleet. 40 warships fired in perfect formation, sending hundreds of projectiles across the darkness of space. Commander Varax watched with satisfaction. This battle would be over in seconds. Then the human ships did something impossible. Instead of retreating or forming a defensive line, they scattered. 12 vessels broke apart in 12 different directions, moving with speed that should have torn them apart. They dove toward a nearby asteroid field that every tactical manual said to avoid. Missiles followed them but found only rocks and debris. What are they doing? Varax demanded. No species uses asteroid fields for combat. The navigation risks are too high. His tactical officer stared at the screen in confusion. They are flying through the asteroids, Commander. At full combat speed. Our targeting systems cannot get a lock. On the bridge of the USS Defiant, Captain Henry Cole gripped his armrests and smiled. His pilot, a young woman named Rachel Torres, weaved through spinning rocks with the calm focus of someone playing a video game. Asteroid at 2 o'clock, Henry said. I see it, Rachel replied. She rolled the ship sideways and passed within meters of the massive stone. Behind them, a Kethrani destroyer tried to follow and clip the asteroid's edge. The ship spun out of control and crashed into another rock. Lieutenant Maya Grant coordinated the fleet from her tactical station. All ships, execute pattern Delta 7. Use the asteroids as cover. Hit them from multiple angles. Human fighters launched from the cargo bays of the larger ships. They were small and fast, designed for exactly this kind of close combat. The pilots flew with instinct rather than logic. They made decisions in fractions of seconds that alien computers could not predict because there was no pattern to analyze. There was only human intuition. The Kethrani formation began to fall apart. Their ships were designed for organized fleet battles where enemies faced each other in straight lines. They had never encountered an opponent that fought like chaos itself. Human vessels appeared from behind asteroids, fired devastating volleys, and disappeared before the Kethrani could respond. Focus fire on their lead ship, Varax ordered. Destroy the commander, and the rest will surrender. 20 Kethrani warships turned their weapons toward the USS Defiant. Beams of energy crossed the void like angry lightning. Henry Cole watched them coming and gave a single command. All power to forward shields. Ram them. His crew obeyed without hesitation. The Defiant accelerated directly into the wall of fire. Shields flared and sparked but held. The ship punched through the Kethrani formation like a fist through paper. As it passed, it released a cloud of small devices that attached to enemy hulls. Charges placed, Maya reported. Detonation in 3, 2, 1. Explosions ripped through a dozen Kethrani ships. Engine cores ruptured. Weapons systems failed. Vessels that survived the blast drifted helplessly, unable to pursue. Commander Daniel Price watched the battle from the command center of the fleet. His voice came through every human communication channel, steady and calm. Remember why we are here. We came for our people. We came for the innocent. Every ship we disable is one less obstacle between us and the hostages. Press the attack. The remaining Kethrani vessels attempted to regroup near their orbital defense station. The station was massive, armed with weapons powerful enough to crack planets. Varax believed it would turn the tide of battle. He was wrong. Maya had studied that station for weeks. She knew every system, every weakness, every blind spot in its sensor coverage. While the main fleet engaged the Kethrani warships, a small team of human fighters approached the station from its undefended maintenance sector. Station defenses are focused on the fleet, the fighter leader reported, moving to disable their power core. The fighters slipped through the station's outer hull at a maintenance hatch. Human soldiers in powered armor floated through corridors designed for aliens twice their size. They planted explosives at key points throughout the station's infrastructure. The Kethrani crew never saw them coming. The orbital station went dark. Its weapons fell silent. Its shields collapsed. Commander Varax watched his greatest defensive asset become useless in less than 10 minutes. "Impossible," he whispered. "This is impossible." His first officer grabbed his arm. "Commander, we must retreat. We have lost half our fleet. The station is disabled. If we stay, they will destroy us all." Varax looked at the tactical display. 12 human ships had engaged 40 Kethrani warships and won. Not through superior numbers. Not through advanced technology. Through sheer audacity and the willingness to take risks that no sane species would consider. "All ships," Varax said, his voice hollow with shock, "fall back to the homeworld. Protect the capital at all costs." The surviving Kethrani vessels turned and fled. Behind them, human ships did not pursue. They had made their point. The path to the hostages was now clear. Henry Cole looked at his crew. They were exhausted and injured, but alive. Their ship was damaged but functional. They had done the impossible. "Take us to the planet," he ordered. "Our people are waiting for us." On the Coalition station, High Arbiter Zelthix watched the battle recordings in stunned silence. His advisors stood around him, unable to speak. They had just witnessed a species they dismissed as primitive defeat one of the most powerful militaries in the sector. Elder Scythine entered the room. She looked at the frozen image of human ships cutting through Kethrani formations and nodded slowly. "I warned you," she said. "The humans do not fight like other species. They fight like they have nothing to lose. And that makes them unstoppable." Zelthix found his voice. "What do we do now?" Scythine looked at him with ancient eyes. "Now you watch. And you remember. Because the galaxy is about to learn what happens when humans say, 'Fine, I will do it myself.'" The ground assault was about to begin. And Sergeant Kevin Brooks was ready to show the Kethrani that space combat was just the opening act. When humans say, "Fine, I'll do it myself," the galaxy learns true trouble has just begun. Part 4. The dropships descended through thick clouds of ash and smoke. Sergeant Kevin Brooks watched the Kethrani capital city grow larger through the window. Tall buildings rose like black fingers against the orange sky. Defense turrets tracked their approach, but could not fire. Human electronic warfare had already blinded their targeting systems. "Touchdown in 60 seconds, the pilot announced. "Landing zone is hot. Expect resistance." Kevin turned to his team. 20 soldiers in dark armor looked back at him with focused eyes. They had trained for this moment for weeks. They knew the layout of the detention facility better than the Kethrani who built it. "Remember the mission," Kevin said. "Get the hostages out. All of them. No matter what it takes." The dropship hit the ground hard. Doors opened and human soldiers poured into the streets of an alien city. The air was thin and hot, just as Kevin had warned. His lungs worked harder to pull in oxygen. His body adjusted within seconds. Humans had evolved to survive in harsh environments. This was just another challenge to overcome. Kathrani soldiers rushed to meet them. They were tall and covered in thick scales, armed with weapons that could cut through metal. They expected the humans to be slow and weak, easy targets in the heavy gravity of their world. They were wrong. Kevin raised his weapon and fired. 3 shots in rapid succession. 3 Kathrani fell before they could react. His team spread out through the streets, using buildings for cover and moving with speed that surprised their enemies. "They are so fast," a Kathrani officer shouted into his communicator. "How are they so fast?" The answer was simple. Humans were persistent predators. Their ancestors had hunted animals by chasing them until they collapsed from exhaustion. Speed was in their blood. Endurance was their birthright. Lieutenant Maya Grant coordinated the assault from orbit. Her voice came through Kevin's earpiece with constant updates. Enemy reinforcements approaching from the east. Squad 3, move to intercept. Squad 1, you have a clear path to the facility entrance. Kevin led his squad through narrow alleys and across open plazas. Kathrani civilians fled from the fighting, screaming in their strange language. The humans let them go. They were not there to hurt innocent people. They were there to save them. The detention facility rose before them, a massive structure of black stone and metal bars. Guards stood at every entrance, armed and ready. Kevin counted their numbers and made his decision. "We go through the roof," he said. His team launched grappling hooks and scaled the building in seconds. They moved like shadows across the rooftop until they found a ventilation shaft large enough to enter. One by one, they dropped into the darkness. Inside the facility, Dr. Nora Ellis sat in her cell and listened to the sounds of battle. She had lost track of time. Days had blurred together into an endless stretch of pain and fear. The Kathrani interrogators wanted information about human military technology. She had refused to tell them anything. The door to her cell exploded inward. A figure in dark armor stepped through the smoke, weapon raised and ready. Nora raised her arms to protect her face. "Dr. Ellis?" A human voice asked. "I am Sergeant Kevin Brooks. We are here to take you home." Nora stared at him in disbelief. "You came. You actually came for us." Kevin helped her to her feet. "Of course we did. We did not leave our people behind." His team moved through the facility with brutal efficiency. Cell doors were blasted open. Hostages were freed. Not just humans, the members of a dozen different species who had been captured by the Kathrani over the years. Many could not walk on their own. Human soldiers carried them without hesitation. A young alien child clung to Kevin's leg, too frightened to move. Her species had delicate wings that the Kathrani had broken during her capture. Kevin lifted her gently and held her against his chest. "I have you," he said softly. "No one will hurt you again." The child did not understand his words, but she understood his tone. She buried her face in his shoulder and held on tight. Kathrani guards attempted to stop the escape. They formed a defensive line at the main corridor, weapons aimed at the approaching humans. Their commander stepped forward with confidence. "Surrender now," he demanded. "You cannot escape. Reinforcements are coming. You will all die here." Kevin handed the alien child to one of his soldiers. He walked toward the Kathrani commander with slow, deliberate steps. "I'm going to give you one chance," Kevin said. "Drop your weapons and let us pass. Or I will go through you." The commander laughed. "You are one human. We are 50 soldiers. Do you think you can defeat us all?" Kevin stopped walking. He looked at the commander with eyes that held no fear, no doubt, only absolute certainty. "Yes," he said. "I do." What happened next became legend among the Kathrani. One human soldier against 50 guards. The fight lasted less than 4 minutes. Kevin moved through them like water through rocks, using their size and strength against them. He broke weapons. He disabled limbs. He showed mercy where he could, and showed none where he could not. When it was over, Kevin stood among fallen enemies, breathing hard but uninjured. His team stared at him with a mix of awe and respect. "Move out," Kevin ordered. "The dropships are waiting." They carried the hostages through the streets toward the extraction point. Kethrani forces attempted to pursue, but human ships provided cover fire from orbit. Explosions marked the path to safety. Commander Daniel Price watched the operation from the USS Defiant. "All hostages are accounted for," Maya reported. "Extraction in progress." Daniel allowed himself a moment of relief. "Bring them home, Sergeant." Kevin reached the dropship with the alien child still clinging to his back. He helped each hostage board, counting them one by one. 63 people had been rescued. 12 species represented. Every single prisoner who had been held in that facility was now free. As the dropship lifted off, Nora Ellis sat beside Kevin and watched the Kethrani capital grow smaller below them. "Why did you come for all of them?" she asked. "Some of those species have never even spoken to humans. Why risk your lives for strangers?" Kevin looked out the window at the alien sky. "Because it was the right thing to do. Because no one else would. Because that is what humans do." Nora was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and took his hand. "Thank you," she said. The dropship rose through the clouds and headed toward the waiting fleet. The ground assault was over. The hostages were safe. And the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. When humans say, "Fine, I'll do it myself," the galaxy learns true trouble has just begun. Part 5. 3 weeks had passed since the rescue. The Galactic Coalition Assembly Hall was full once again, but the atmosphere had completely changed. Delegates who once laughed at humanity now sat in tense silence. Their eyes followed Ambassador Linda Vance as she walked to the speaker's platform. High Arbiter Zelthix rose from his seat. His forearms were folded in a gesture of formal respect that he had never shown to a human before. "Ambassador Vance," he said, "on behalf of the Galactic Coalition, I offer our sincere apology. We dismissed your warnings. We ignored your evidence. We failed the innocent beings who suffered under Kethrani oppression." Linda stood tall and listened without expression. She had prepared for this moment carefully. "The Kethrani Empire has agreed to all terms of surrender," Zelthix continued. "They will pay reparations to every victim. They will release all remaining prisoners. Their military commanders will face trial for crimes against sentient beings. This is due entirely to human action." Murmurs passed through the assembly. Many delegates still could not believe what had happened. 12 human ships had dismantled a military power that had threatened the sector for centuries. 20 human soldiers had infiltrated a fortress that was supposed to be impenetrable. One species had accomplished what the entire coalition had been afraid to attempt. Linda stepped forward to address the assembly. She looked at the hundreds of alien faces watching her and chose her words with care. 3 weeks ago, I stood in this chamber and asked for help. I presented evidence of suffering and injustice. I believed that reasonable beings would act to protect the innocent. She paused. I was wrong, not because the coalition lacks good intentions, but because good intentions mean nothing without action. The chamber was silent. Not a single delegate moved. Humanity did not come to the stars seeking war, Linda continued. We came seeking knowledge and friendship. We wanted to learn from ancient civilizations. We wanted to share what we had discovered about the universe. We wanted to be good neighbors in a vast galaxy. She turned to look directly at Commander Varax's empty seat. The Kethrani representative was no longer welcome in coalition space. But we also learned something important about ourselves. We learned that we will not stand by while innocents suffer. We will not watch injustice happen and do nothing. We will not accept cruelty because challenging it is difficult or dangerous. Her voice grew stronger. When peaceful options fail and no one else will act, we will act ourselves. That is who we are. High Arbiter Zelthix stepped forward. The Coalition wishes to propose a new initiative. We want to establish a rapid response force for humanitarian crises across the sector. We are asking humanity to lead it. For the first time, Linda allowed herself a small smile. We accept, but we have conditions. This force will not be bound by political concerns. It will not wait for permission when lives are at stake. It will act first and explain later. Zelthix nodded slowly. Those terms are acceptable. From the back of the chamber, Elder Scythine watched the exchange with ancient eyes. She had seen many turning points in galactic history. This was one of them. Later, she approached Linda in a quiet corridor outside the assembly hall. You have changed the balance of power in this sector, Scythine said. Some species will fear you now. Others will seek your protection. Both reactions are dangerous. Linda turned to face the ancient being. We are aware of that. Scythine studied her for a long moment. I have lived for 6,000 years. I have seen species like yours before. Passionate, protective, fierce when provoked. She paused. Most of them burned out. They fought endless wars until nothing was left. Their passion became their destruction. What happened to them? They are forgotten. Dust in the void between stars. Scythine reached out and touched Linda's hand with her thin fingers. I do not want that fate for humanity. You have something special. Do not waste it. Linda met her eyes. We will try to be better. Scythine nodded slowly. That is all any species can do. On Earth, Commander Daniel Price returned home to a hero's welcome. Crowds gathered at the spaceport to cheer for the soldiers who had accomplished the impossible. But Daniel did not stay for the celebration. He had someone to visit. He found Dr. Nora Ellis in a hospital recovering from her injuries. She was sitting up in bed, reading reports about the mission that had saved her life. Commander, she said, I did not expect to see you here. Daniel sat down beside her bed. I wanted to make sure you were okay, and I wanted to ask you something. What is that? Was it worth it? Daniel looked at her with tired eyes. We lost 2 soldiers in that assault. Good people with families who will never see them again. We made enemies who will want revenge. We showed the galaxy exactly what we are capable of, which means they will be watching us more closely from now on. Nora was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and took his hand. I met an alien child in that prison, she said. Her wings were broken. She was so scared that she could not even speak. When your sergeant picked her up and held her, she stopped shaking for the first time in months. Nora squeezed his hand. That child will grow up knowing that someone cared enough to save her. That has value beyond anything you can measure. Daniel nodded slowly. Some things could not be calculated in numbers or strategic advantage. Some things simply mattered because they mattered. Across the galaxy, in a small dwelling on a neutral world, a young alien child sat with her family. Her wings were healing. The doctor said she would fly again someday. Her parents sat beside her, holding a small image of the humans who had rescued her. Who are they? The child asked. Her parent looked at the image for a long moment before answering. They are called humans, the parent said. They are the species you want as friends, little one. They came from a dangerous world far away. They evolved to survive terrible conditions. They fight harder than any species in the galaxy. Why did they save me? I am not one of them. The parent smiled gently. Because that is what humans do. They protect the innocent. They fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. They do the right thing even when it costs them everything. The child looked at the image of human soldiers, carrying hostages to safety. She did not fully understand what had happened to her. She did not know about politics or military power or galactic consequences. But she understood one thing clearly. "I want to meet them someday," she said. Her parent nodded. "Perhaps you will. But remember this. Humans are the species you want as friends. Because the alternative is something no one survives." The stars continued to turn. The galaxy continued to spin through the endless void. And somewhere in the darkness between worlds, human ships patrolled the borders of known space, ready to answer the next call for help, ready to say, once again, "Fine, we will do it ourselves." The end.